morning, heck, all week. We've been talking about the protests and the riots that we have seen nationwide and right here at home after the death of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police a week ago. You may be having questions about how to talk to your kids about what is happening in the world. And if you're a parent, I imagine you're probably struggling with that a little bit. This morning, I'm joined by parenting expert Rina Patel, who has some steps that we can hopefully follow. Rina, good morning to you, and thank you for joining us. This is an important conversation. You say parents need to be open and honest. How can we do that, and how open and honest should we be?
That's a great question, and I always start off by do not ask yourself or start to teach in a way that you ask, how do we treat others? There isn't others. It's all of us. We're all part of this human race. And children are born with a blank slate. They don't have any positive or negative emotions associated to a term racism. In fact, it's not till about 3 years old that children start to understand that they are differences, and it's beyond just color of skin. It's ethnicity, gender, religion. So it's that early on that you can actually start to have the dialogue and conversations. And it is important as parents to model, but just not have the discussion, to show through actions.
Okay, so we hear a lot as parents about modeling. What can we as parents do to be a model for our kids during this time?
To embrace differences. It starts from the basics of when you're purchasing toys for your children. Do not just select items that are similar to, for example, dolls to your family. Look for the diversity. Look for books that talk about inclusion, talk about compassion and kindness, and practice what it means to be respectful. Make sure that they understand how to have conversations and allow them to ask questions. It's very important. It's not that you want to be silent. It is the fact that you actually do need to have that dialogue. And don't over divulge. Make sure you find out where your child is at before you have those discussions.
Okay, great point. You also recommend that folks take a stand. How would you recommend doing that?
It is important. A lot of times it's misinformation and educating yourself. And the biggest question I always get is, what about our grandparents and the generations before? And they had a particular perception or ideology that they were taught within their family. But families can shift, they can change. We can all move forward and think positively, make sure that we are treating each other with equity. And so by doing so, it is having that discussion, especially with our teens who are so big on activism, and they are all global citizens. So it is okay to participate in friendly ways and positive ways. And it doesn't mean that you have to go out and protest per se. You can start with sending an email, writing to your congressman, looking within your community to see what needs to change in terms of compassion, in terms of movement. It can be a family group activity.
I get that. Okay, so what advice do you have for parents of teenagers? Because obviously, the advice and the strategy changes depending on how old your kids are.
Right. When you have the discussions, it really is based on what's developmentally appropriate. My recommendation, of course, is to limit the amount of media exposure, be cognizant of what it is that they're viewing, and check in with them, especially not only with the little ones, but with our teens. Get their understanding. A lot of teenagers feel invincible, and so they don't know some of the cons with some of the actions that they're taking. So have the discussion, show them what a protest is, go over the guidelines, the rules, and there is sometimes peer pressure. And so you want to make sure that they have that safety net, especially with social media too. It is still important whenever you post to make sure that you are making that imprint. And so make sure that it is something that is meaningful but positive, and that they know that they can't really take back. And so I always say, before you post, write it out, have it out there, step away for about 30 seconds, and then come back and make sure it's something that you're ready to
I think that's great advice in any regard. Rina Patel, thank you. Important conversation this morning. We appreciate your time. 8:48.